In this video, Paul Muhindi will show you everything about using Revit line styles, line weights, and patterns to make professional drawings. Essentially, using these elements, you can make your projects look more professional and improve its readability. So everything that you should know about Revit line styles, line weights, and patterns is in this video. And you should watch this video till the end if you don't want to miss any important detail. Also, for this video, I'm assuming that you know a little bit about Revit, but if you are completely new to Revit, then you can sign up for our free Revit Essentials course on SourceCAD. The link of that course is in the description of this video and also in the pinned comment. This is completely free course where you can learn Revit architecture right from scratch in a step-by-step way. And when you finish this course, you'll also get a certificate of completion. So with that, let's get started.
So we'll start by looking at line styles. So line styles in Revit, they're very simple. They're used to define the appearance of the lines on your drawings. So where you can adjust the line weight, the color, as well as the patterns. So how do you get them? So for our case, we'll be using Revit 2024, and I'll just simply jump to the Manage tab, and under the Settings panel, I'll find the Additional Settings option. Once I click on this drop-down menu, we'll find the line styles being the first option. We have the line weights being the second, the line patterns being the third. But let's start with the line styles, and I will come to cover this one later on in the video. Kindly make sure you stick around to understand how this apply to line styles. So I'll click on this option once, and from here we have line style. We have only one tab, line styles. So we'll just simply jump to this window where we have category, line weight projection, line colors, and line patterns. I understand these two already sound familiar because we have already seen them in the additional settings drop menu. But what are they doing in the line styles option? It's important to understand if I click on this plus button, all these lines are interconnected to the line weight and the line patterns, as those are the information that make them being different. And something interesting, you'll find that even in your template, you'll find already predefined lines in your software or in your specific template. So for example, we have area-based load boundary. So if I can increase the size of this column, this specific line type is used to define where the load are placed in the structural design analysis element. So if you are working with area loads, you can use this option to place the loads on your specific slab. You can also specify the area boundary where you want to specify a certain area of your focus. You can also look at center lines. Let's say over a wall, you can specify it using this specific type of line. If you want to demolish something, you can use this line to demolish. And if you want to hide certain elements in your design, let's say where the roof is intersecting with the wall, you can use this option to hide. You can also use various thickness type of lines. Let's say when displaying structural elements, you can use this option. And not only that, you can also separate rooms. Remember, when we are creating rooms, items like this, and we have different color codes, you usually use room separation lines. Let's say over here we have where we have no door, to specify the separation between this room and this other room. You'll notice if you try to delete either of these lines, you are not in a position to, or even rename, you're not in a position to, but you can create a new custom-made line under the modify subcategory. I'll click on new, and for my case, I'll just name it as SourceCAD. For your case, it can be different depending with the project that you're working on. So once you give it a name, let's say call it SourceCAD line 1. It depends with what you want. For my case, I want to call it line 1. For your case, it can be, let's say, something totally different depending on the project. I'll copy this and paste it to create a new line later on. And I'll specify the subcategory to be lines because there is no any other type of category. I'll click on OK. Then I'll be prompted to select these other types of options, or by default, it will just pick the first line weight, black color being the line color, and the line pattern being solid, which means continuous. But I'll cover this later on when we jump into the different types of line weights and line patterns and their implication in Revit. So let's create a new one. So I'll click on new, and for this one, we'll just call it line 2. Then I'll click on OK. And for this one, I can play around with the line weights. So I'll be covering all these lines from weight 1 all the way to 16, they simply mean in our design processes. So let's go with something like line weight 12. We change the color to index color 2. This is red. I'll click on OK. I can change the line pattern to, let's say, something like dash. And once satisfied, all I have to do is click on apply, then click on OK. And that's the way we define our line styles in Revit. So for this case, where I was trying to tell you, we have a line separator or a room separator. If this room is intersecting with this room and there's no separator here, there will be an issue because Revit software will pick that this is a continuous full type of room. So if I go to architecture tab and I use room separator, we are usually using lines. And for this case, we are using this line called room separation line to keep a specific separation here. So let's just create a very simple basic line, let's say from here up to there. Just like that, you'll find that this is another room. And if I try to place a room here, it will accept because there's no room here. But that's not what I want. I'll just simply undo. So I'll use this undo button. And just like that, that's the way you use your line styles in Revit for different kinds of purposes. So now let's look at the next option, which is line weights. So I'll just simply click on line weights and I'll be explaining what they all do. So when it comes to line weights, we have three types of line weights. The first one being the model line weights. So they are related to the physical elements within a model, e.g. the beams, and they affect the visual appearance of the lines in views, plans, sections, and elevations, basically in all types of views. But the perspective line weights, this one they mainly focus on the perspective views, where you can control the weights of the lines, the line width, for the physical elements in the model in those specific views. And when it comes to annotation, these are used to annotate certain items such as tags, symbols, sections, dimensions, so on and so forth. And how do you get to them? So under the Manage tab, under the additional settings, you'll click on line weights. And by default, they're usually 16 in Revit. So I'll just increase the size of this window and you'll find that we have from 1 all the way to 16. And something interesting, in this column, we have the rows from 1 up to 16, and then we have columns with different scales. 1:10, 1:20, 1:50, so on and so forth. What they simply mean is, in the event that you are using lines that have a line weight of 1, in the scale of 1:10, their thickness will be displayed as 0.1800 millimeters for my case, because my units are in metric, and the higher the scale that you change, let's say from 1:10, you change to 1:500, the line will be a bit more fine, which will be 0.100 millimeters. And you'll notice the thicker the line, the more thin the line will be later on down the line. So for this case, we are moving from 9 millimeter when the scale is 1:10, all the way just to 7 millimeter, removing a whole 2 millimeter on that display effect of that line. But remember, this is for the model line, which affects all views. But when you come to perspective, this is only perspective view, and I'll be showing you what perspective view means. So you can specify from the same line weight scale from 1 all the way to 16. And what you can do, even for model line, you can always change if you want to change. So this is 0.35, you can say 0.36 millimeters, something of the sort, and it will just apply if you want to save. So if I click on apply, it has already saved that setting, but I don't want to change it, so I'll just revert it back to 0.35, then hit on apply. And if you want to create a new specific line type of weight under model, you just click on new, you specify the scale that you want to specify for. So let's say 1:200, we already have, let's say 1:1000, then I can click on OK. And once I click on OK, another column will be added here where I can now specify. And something interesting, you'll notice that all these numbers that were here, they're just transferred to the next one here. So you can now specify, let's say you want to go with 6, this one you want to go with 5, this one you want to go with 4. You just simply do like this, and it's going to be applied automatically. This is like a view template that you're making. So in the event that you specify your line weights in the different scale, it's going to be applied automatically. When you go to perspective line weights, the same thing applies. You can always change it if you want. Let's say I want this one to be 0.9 instead of 0.7. All I have to do is hit on apply and it will be added. But I want to revert back to 0.7, click away, click on apply, and it will be saved. When it comes to annotation lines, these are basically for tags, for showing the text. You can change from here, from the same thing, the first scale all the way to 16th line weight. You can change from here, and you can always edit if you want to, then hit on apply. For our case, I'll just click on OK, and I want to show you the different view areas. So any type of view, either 2D or 3D, that falls under model line. But for you to have your perspective, you just simply navigate to 3D. So this is for perspective. I'll click on this, and this is the perspective view. For you to show your annotation, you can now have it either in perspective. So for this case, we have text here. And to get this text, you just simply go to architecture. Then we have our model text that now you can use. You can either place it here. So for our case, let's say it's source card. You can place it on your 2D. So for example, we can place it on this specific floor, and we have it here. So this is now the annotation line that you can use for your specific design purposes. So that's all about Revit line weights and how to display them. So interestingly enough, if you zoom in, you'll find that this line is thicker compared to this interior line, because this is a structural line which shows the outer core of our wall, while this is just the inner core. For your case, you might not be seeing this thickness. All you have to do is to click on this option, thin lines, or TL on your keyboard to activate it. So I'll click on it. Just like that, all the lines have been uniform. And because the scale is 1:30, it has different thicknesses. So I'll hit on my keyboard TL to bring back that thickness. Then I will buff up my scale 1:1000. And just like that, you'll find, okay, the text is everywhere. Let me go to something more reasonable, 1:100. And you'll find that the thickness is more compared to the one that we had initially. So this is the way it looks like. You see the thickness is quite high. I can simply go to view to change my canvas. Just like that, you'll find that the thickness is higher compared to the one that we had initially. Let's keep an eye on this. When I go down all the way is 1:20. Just like that, you'll find that it's now becoming more refined, 1:1. Just like that, it's coming more refined. So that's the way we actually do it. And if you're working with custom scales, you navigate to these settings of scale, click on custom, specify the scale that you want. Let's say 1:30, click on OK, just like that. Or alternatively, you can always change from here. You can click on this drop down, select from the list that you have here and apply it. So that's all that you need to understand when it comes to Revit line weights. So now let's look at Revit line patterns. So still under the Manage tab, under the additional settings, you'll find these Revit line patterns. So what are these Revit line patterns? So Revit line patterns are made up of dashes, spaces, and dots that are repeated over a length of time. So when it comes to Revit, we already have some predefined line patterns that come with the software, such as a line, we have center line, we have the dash, we have the dash dot. We even have other type of lines such as the dash, dot, the demolish, the dot, the double dash, depends. And we have so many other type of lines that come with Revit. So where do we find them? So still the same place, under the Manage tab, under the Settings panel, navigate to Additional Settings, then click on Line Patterns. Once you select on this, all these types of lines will be shown. There are so many. I cannot go through all of them and exhaust them. But all you need to understand, we have some basic ones such as center lines that are usually used to show the center of walls or center of certain elements. We have dash that you can use for different types of elements. Let's say when you're trying to show your boundary lines. You can even use demolish if you're showing where to demolish a certain item. You can use dot if you're specifying different items. You can use grid lines when you're specifying these grids over here. You can use hidden if you're trying to hide certain items, so on and so forth. There are usually so many. And not only just that, you can always create a new one. So click on new, specify the name that you want. So for our case, we can just call it source card. But for your case, it will vary depending now with the project that you're working on. Then you can specify the type. So for our case, let's go with dash, and the value of this dash will be what? You can specify over here. Let's say we go something like 1 millimeter, and you can specify so many items that you want down here. So what is the space between the dash? So let's say we go with, let's say 1.5 millimeter, the space between that. And then once satisfied, you can click on OK. And just like that, it will be added here. But remember, if you're not satisfied, you can always edit. So let's say we go with now with 10 millimeter. I'll specify 10. Then let's go with 15, click on OK. And you'll see in real time how it's been represented down here. And you can always rename if you want to rename. Let's say rename like that. You say LP for line pattern. Let's use caps, something of the sort, LP1, then click on OK. Just like that, it will be updated. And if you're not satisfied with it, you just click on delete. It will confirm, do you want to delete it? Click on yes. Just like that, it will be deleted. So once you understand all of them, so how do they come to play in your design? So let's go back to line styles. So under line styles, remember these ones that we had created down here. Now we can specify the specific line weight projection. Remember, different line weights have different meanings when it comes to your design processes. So simply, we have lighter lines from category 1 all the way to 4, where they focus on minor detail. Then we have minor lines run from category 5 all the way to 8, and they focus on the object outlines. And then we have the heavy lines, which run from category 9 all the way to 12, and they focus on major structural elements. And from now 13 to 16, you can use it for power utilities, so on and so forth, and even heavy structural elements such as beams, such as columns, so on and so forth. Depends with what you want to show. So for our case, let's say we want to show something like a structural element. I'll go with 12. I can change this color to cyan. I can click on OK. And remember now the line patterns we've already gone through, they just simply show what you prefer. So let's say we go with demolish something. Then once satisfied, you just hit on apply, then hit on OK. And all you have to do is now specify either you're working with the model or you're working with the detail. So if you want to understand the difference between the two, kindly check the video down in the description. Over here we have model line, and on the annotate tab we have detail line. So let's go with the detail line for this specific video. Then I can go with, let's say, a rectangle. Then I'll specify a source card, line 1, click on that. Then let's say just draw that detail line from that section up to around there. And that's the way you just place it. It's very simple, and you can see how thick this line is. So if you're not satisfied, always remember you can modify under manage, additional settings, line style, click on this tree, navigate down to the one that you have selected. Let's say if you want to go with medium, let's go with 6, hit on apply, then hit on OK, and that's the way it's gonna be shown. So now let's look at the frequently asked questions. Many people ask, can I be able to customize the line weights and styles in Revit? Absolutely yes, you can. I've already shown you how you can do it. Just simply navigate to the Manage tab in your Revit software, and under it you'll find the Settings panel. Under this you'll have additional settings, and under Line Styles you can always modify what you want. Remember, there are these ones that are grayed out that you can't, but the ones that you created, you can be able to modify them to something that you prefer. You can change the color, you can change the line weights, you can even change the line patterns. And not only that, you can also change the line weights from here, depending now with the scale that you're using in the model line, perspective line, or annotation line that you're using. Other people ask, can I create new line styles? But of course, you can always create your new line styles from this option, depending with the specific project that you're working on. Other people ask, why do some lines look different in Revit views? Remember, depending now with the scale and the line weights, depending with the scale that you have defined, they will change the size. Let's say over here we have 1:30 and our source card line 1 looks like this. If I was to change the scale, let's say 1:5, our line will be very, very fine. It will look very small like that. If I go 1:100, it will be very thick, just like that. So that is something that you need to understand. The scale is directly intertwined to the specific line that you created. All right, so that brings us to the conclusion of our video, and that's it for today's tutorial on Revit line weights, styles, and patterns. Mastering these tools will significantly enhance the clarity and professionalism of your drawings, ensuring that every single element is communicated effectively.
So that was all about Revit line styles, line weight, and patterns. Which topic you want us to cover next? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.